Shows overtime costs rose by 16% from a year ago to their highest level ever. So how much are you paying for the long hours, and is it a bad thing or is it cost effective? Our Capitol correspondent Pat Bailey is live in Albany right now with the answer to that. Hi, Pat.
Well, hey, Greg, a little cold if you want me to be honest, but last year the state paid over $600 million in overtime costs. But at the same time, the amount of employees in the state of New York went down, but the workload stayed the same. So the question tonight is, what is more cost effective, hiring new workers or paying that high overtime?
This report, as with the other reports, is meant to show trends.
And that trend is on the upward trail. A report released today by Comptroller DiNapoli shows both overtime hours and earnings are up over the past 4 years. Last year was a record high of $611 million.
We asked state agencies to take a hard look at how they use overtime and to certainly double their efforts to reduce what is becoming an expensive habit.
But it's a necessary habit. That's because since 2008, the state has been on a hiring freeze. There's been no choice but to pay the overtime because hiring new full-time staff is not allowed. Does the hiring freeze directly impact how much overtime a state agency will have?
Absolutely.
Aaron Pasidi is an assistant professor of economics at Siena. He says when you compare the cost of hiring new staff or paying overtime, the smart business decision in the private sector is pay the OT. In the public sector, Pasidi says a better investment is more manpower.
One of the state's goals is to maximize its tax revenue. And if the state's not hiring unemployed workers and instead working their existing workers longer, the state's forgoing a lot of tax revenue.
Comptroller DiNapoli says the report is not meant to be used as judgment or as a prop in a justification debate, rather as a guideline.
This report is intended very simply as a tool for the respective agency heads so they could hopefully use this for their internal management in a way that can reduce these premium overtime costs.
Now, the audit spans back 7 years tracking the overtime, but in that same span, it also tracked the number of state workers. Coming up tonight at 6:30, I'll show you the exact number of state workers over the past 7 years and how much the workforce has shrunk. And I talked to a bunch of state workers today, hear what they had to tell me about overtime policies now in the state of New York. Reporting in Albany, Pat Bailey, CBS 6 News.